We're speaking to Minister for Food and Agriculture, Bryan Acheampong. He's also the MP for Abetifi in the Eastern region. And yesterday, a number of papers were talking about the relaunch of Planting for Food and Jobs 2.0. And Bryan Acheampong has been on a campaign to make more noise about that. Welcome to the show. Good morning.
Thank you, Senior.
How are you doing?
Very well.
Great. So you've been in office for how long?
11 months.
As Minister of Agric?
Yes.
Wow. So if you add what is left of the term, you are going to get at least 2 years.
About
we have about 8 months. Yeah. Which is longer than most other ministers of this current government. Because most of the new guys are going to have less than 9 months. But I think you and Citi Amon came in a year ago.
That's correct. That's correct.
So what was what did the president tell you? What are you trying to do?
Well, I mean, the president was clear in his mind that we need to step up this whole agriculture. We have achieved the agri growth rate from 2.6 to 6% from 2017 to 2022. And he wants new energy to push it further. He wants to see Agric be the pillar for youth unemployment. He wants us to solve the food inflation challenges. He wants us to solve the food distribution challenges, which is not talked about much. Food distribution means that you find maize in abundance in Begro, for example, at a price that is, let's say, 200 Ghana cedis, and then you go to Western region and maize is about 400 Ghana cedis. So there was a food internal distribution price distortion. He wanted us to fix that. He wanted us to also focus on irrigation infrastructure, where we are able to do all-year farming for some of the embarrassing challenges that we face by, for example, importing onions and tomatoes and pepper from our neighboring countries. He thought that Ghana is not fit to wear that crown, and therefore we should be aggressive in dealing with it. And then he wanted us to promote import substitution, whereby the industries in Ghana that are importing raw materials, because we are not able to produce enough for them, we are able to deal with it. So this was a clear assignment that he gave, and he assured me that he will personally be involved with me in the journey, because, like you mentioned, I had 18 months to deal with it. So he assured me, and that is why you see that in my first, let's say, 4 months, when I was doing the stakeholder engagements to understand the issues on the ground, to meet with the donors. The president was with me to meet with all the donors. When I was meeting the chiefs for land, the president was there. When I was meeting financial institutions to deal with the issues of credit, the president was there. When I was meeting with the chiefs up north, the president was there. When I launched the Planting for Food and Jobs Phase 2 in Tamale, the president was there. That assurance that he gave, that he was going to be with me on the journey, started from day one. And look, in fact, when I told him that we had to apply a lot of technology in what we're doing, he actually met with an organization called planet.com. If you go to planet.com, you know who they are. They provide satellite services to be able to zoom into farms. He met with the CEO himself. I was not there, but later called me, gave me the man's contact that I should talk to him. He's willing to help, and that is also one of the tools that we're using. So in any case, the president gave the direction and the directives on what he wants to achieve for the rest of this time, and that is what...
So if you listen to the things you said, he said production, distribution, pricing, irrigation. If these problems persist up until the time that he gave you the appointment, and somebody couldn't solve them all in 5.5 to 6 years, what makes you think you can solve them in less than 2?
But I don't think you're a Bible believer. I mean, if you know the story of Joseph, you know that when Joseph came in to office, within a very short time, he laid the structures and provided direction for the challenges in Egypt. I'm a firm believer in that, and if you read Ephesians 3:20, it further adds to that. Hey. It further adds to what I'm saying. So it's not about the time. It's about what you're able to do with the time. And look, if you talk about irrigation, that the president directed that we should step it up. We had big investment in VIA at about 120 million Ghana cedis. It was in the last 10 months I have expanded VIA irrigation's contract to about 400 million Ghana cedis, which is expanding the length and width of the irrigation scheme. We had TAMNI that was started in President Mahama's time. His investment in the TAMNI project was about 14 million Ghana cedis. Dr. Akuto Afriye came and expanded it with a contract of about 250 million Ghana cedis. Now that expansion stands about 900 Ghana cedis. It means that in my time I have added almost 650 million Ghana cedis to expand the TAMNI irrigation scheme up north. If you look at irrigation in our farm plains, that we used to say that is a food basket of this country. You know, our farm plains was an empty basket because we couldn't utilize it for all year round agriculture. In the last 10, 11 months, we have handed over 10,000 hectares of land for 3 irrigation schemes worth almost 2.9 billion Ghana cedis. The largest single irrigation scheme in one fell swoop. And that has been done in the last 10 months. Everybody thought it wasn't possible. We have been able to do it. We talked about poultry resuscitation. You see the numbers. We are consuming 15,000. We are consuming 324,000 plus metric tons. We are producing about 15,000 metric tons, 5% self-sufficiency. In the budget of 2024, you saw that I pushed to renovate and rehabilitate 300, let me put it this way, defunct poultry farms. We got a budget to give poultry farmers 18 million day-old chicks, vaccines, and feed. And this is to push our food self-sufficiency for 15,000 metric tons to about 42,000 metric tons in this year. On a trajectory.
So where are we now with that?
Well, we're doing well.
The national demand is 324,000 metric tons. And when you took over, we were producing only 5% of what we eat. 2023 was 22.25.
Yeah, we had that target. We were not able to meet the 2023 target, and that was the only target in our commodities that we missed out, which was a poultry, because by November, when we wanted to put in 4.5 million day-old chicks, we were able to just do about 2.5 million. I mean, that's why this Christmas you saw that the price of chicken was relatively stable, and an influx of a lot of Ghanaian chicken. That was the effort that we put in. But this year, we will be able to move it from 15,000 to 42,000. Bernard, I wish that in one fell swoop, 2024, we can solve the poultry problem. It's just not possible. It's like building a house. You have to put one block on top of the other. All our poultry farmers, well, not all of them, but a majority of them are out of business, especially the small holder poultry farmers. Yeah. So we need to now help them rehabilitate their farms, help them with some grant day-old chicks, feed, and vaccines for them to come back up, and then that.
But will that work without the import reduction? You remember your colleague Minister Citi was trying to do import restriction bill, which did not succeed. The point you're making about helping the producers may be good, but because the importers have such a large base and because they have so much money, they can still outprice the local producers. So my point is, the investment you're making in poultry notwithstanding, will that not require additional effort from trade to deal with the imports to really prop up the producers?
The solution is what we call infilling. The more you produce, you try and talk to the importers to now offtake from the producers in Ghana. I mean, look, I didn't really believe in that strategy of that was being proposed of just day one, dealing with the imports.
So you didn't support import restriction ab initio?
I mean, look, I like the idea. It's a very, very good one, but we are not there yet. I believe that we have to produce enough, and then whilst we produce, we reduce the importation. Look, on poultry, during the Christmas last year, all the production that we catalyzed to happen, we invited the importers to offtake from the poultry farm. That is why if you go to ShopRite and all those things, you saw Boris B chicken and other chicken made in Ghana. And so if we continue to put on that trajectory, push that agenda, and invite the importers to now off-take, they want to make money. And they want to make money from Ghana. The fact that they are importing is really not how they want to make money. They are business people and they want to make money. So if the poultry is in Ghana, because there's a high demand for chicken, 324,000 metric tons is what we require. So if they are big off-takers in Ghana, those who are importing will refocus.
But can you match the subsidies that the Americans, the Dutch, the Brazilian government give their producers, which allows them to export to Ghana at such a cheap rate?
I'm saying if they are giving subsidies, we can also do at the same time.
Can you match their subsidies?
But I'm saying we may not be able to match their subsidies. They are America, they are Holland, we are Ghana. We may not be able to match their subsidies, but notwithstanding the subsidies that they are giving, if you look at the price of made in Ghana chicken, and if you look at the price of the chemical infused, the price difference is not much, about 5 to 10.
The Ghanaian is more expensive.
Well, slightly, but about 10 cedis.
But for poor people, that's a lot.
But I'm saying it's about 10 cedis. But the medication that you have to buy for eating those imported chicken, because you know how they're grown. Okay, you see all those big chicken.
The size of the chicken.
The size of the chicken, and that's about 2 weeks that they use in producing that chicken. You know the chemicals that go through. You can't compare
so
that.
Maybe you should have supported the import restriction on chicken in particular.
No, but I'm saying you have to. If you don't produce to infill, okay, you shoot the price up. So I support the principle. It is a timing.
All right. Let's do with rice. The rice level was 48 base self-sufficiency, where the national demand was around 1.4 million metric tons. And we're 48% self-sufficient. Your target was 706. So we wanted to get to probably about half. I don't know if you were able to do that for 2023. Your target for this year is 908. What is the indication with rice?
Well, rice we're doing very well. We're doing very, very well with rice. If you look at the current complaints that we're getting from farmers across the country, not just in the south, it tells you that we're doing well for rice. There were a lot of programs that were launched by the private sector input dealers, like a very good company like Yara. They did a 2 buy 2 get 1 free fertilizer. They were able to put in thousands of metric tons of inputs in the north. ETG company did the same with support from Rabobank. They were able to do that. We also, government on the SADEP side, were also able to put a lot of inputs, and now we have basically a glut of rice.
Local rice?
Yes. We have a glut. I mean, if you talk to farmers in the Yagaba, Kubori region, in eastern region, in western region, literally there's a glut of rice. It is not
rice that has not yet been milled.
Yes, paddy
rice.
There's a glut of paddy rice, and they have a myriad of reasons why. I mean, they are not the mills.
Milling capacity is low.
Yes, and then the mills also don't have the financial capacity to buy the paddy and then store them. So farmers are really complaining. In fact, on that front, government has given us some funding to go and buy the paddy and store.
And mill it yourself or store it?
Store and then help the mills mill it and then bring it back to buffer stock to give to our institutions. So that's what we are doing. And just not on rice, on maize too. There's a huge glut of maize up north. Farmers are...
But that's not really a glut. Just to be clear, a glut is when like the thing is produced and it cannot be... It's more than we can consume.
No,
the paddy rice is there, but it hasn't been milled yet.
No, that's two things. I mean, but what about maize? There's a glut of maize. It means that the glut that I'm talking about, that is stuck with the farmers. Okay, there's a lot of maize out there, and look, if you look at the prices of maize at the moment, it tells you that we have quite a lot of maize on the market,
including maize for poultry feed.
I mean, yes, the maize is available.
Because I'm told the yellow maize is what they use for the poultry feed.
Because it's relatively cheaper by about 20 cedis and thereabouts. So every poultry farmer will prefer that. But there's indeed maize in the system, and that is why price of maize is not going up. And indeed, for the first time, you see that the price of kinky, which never happens, is actually going down.
No.
No.
We did a kinky. We read the kinky research. Kinky prices have consistently increased. The size has reduced. The price has increased from 2, 3 to 5.
You buy kinky from Kempinski and other places.
No. The guy did the research across the Greater Accra region. I even interviewed him. I've read the report.
We are on the ground. I have.
So what's the average ball of kinky price in Accra? It's about 4 cedis.
The average is actually 3 cedis, because you can get kinky for 2 cedis. No, I'm saying
even the cheapest place for kinky was Teshi, and Teshi you get kinky for 3.
No,
we did this study.
But I'm saying I'm not here to argue about that. I can find you kinky for 2 cedis this afternoon.
I'm happy to eat it.
Okay, and I can get you kinky for 4 cedis. I can get you kinky for 5
and
cedis.
The size, what's the size of the 2 cedi ball?
But I'm saying we're talking about the average price of about 600 grams of kinky. Okay. And I'm saying that you can get that size depending on where you go. If you want boutique kinky, the price is different. If you want my Mile 7 kinky, the price is different. But kinky price is averaging about 3 cedis, not 4 cedis. But if you look at the price of maize, okay, kinky prices should have been
much lower.
But there are a myriad of factors that is causing that, and we intend to deal with it.
Let me just understand your rice strategy. You're saying that you are going to support the milling so that the rice that is locally produced will not just stay on the farm, but it will be milled and sent to buffer stock. That's your part of your rice strategy? The
rice with the farmers, we need to offtake the rice from our producers. If the private sector does not have the capacity to offtake, government needs to step in and offtake what is being produced, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, when you offtake, what do you do with it? First, you can now supply it to the mills and bring it back to market, or if it is staying quite long, you can give it to buffer stock to now feed public institutions, and then you're going to get the money back anyway to go back and recycle that process.
Why doesn't government build the rice mills? Maybe for each major rice district, government produces a major mill that the rice farmers can then bring it and get it milled for them. Because I know rice farmers who have to travel sometimes 3 hours to get their rice milled before an off-taker will take it. Is that part of the consideration?
The consideration is not for government to build rice mills. You want to get government out of private sector functions. Okay, get government out. Support private sector people to build mills. It's not quite cheap to build a mill. Okay, so government strategy is to then support the private sector persons to build the mills. And that is exactly what we are trying to do. Okay, to look at some big, what we call them, Agric machinery services providers, AMSECs. Okay, we're supporting a few of them to build the mills around the rice producing areas so that they can mill. Government cannot and should not be building a mill to mill rice for the population. But all in all, the strategy that we set out on planting for food and jobs, and the invitation that we gave to Ghanaians to follow us on a 5-year journey to food resilience, we are on track. We were able to meet our targets in 2023 on the 10 crops, except for poultry. In 2024, we are hell-bent on meeting those food targets. And when we have done that and followed the trajectory, in 5 years, Ghana will be food self-sufficient in 10 crops.
You said all your, so there's poultry, rice, maize, soya bean, sorghum, tomato, and then there's a couple more. You're saying apart from poultry, because I know that your target for, say, tomato, the national demand for tomato is 1.2 million metric tons. And as of 2022, our sufficiency was just 27%.
That's correct.
In 2023, you wanted to reach tomato to reach 405 metric tons. What was the production for 2023?
I think it was about 450,000 metric tons. Tomato, we did exceed our target for 2023. I mean, look, we did a lot of dry season tomato planting last year with the tomato queens, the market queens, those who go to Burkina and go and bring tomatoes. We invited them and we told them that, look, we want to join hands and do dry season tomato, so that this time of the year, which is around February, March, April, where tomato prices skyrocket, okay, we are able to bring the tomato that is produced in Ghana, okay, to support the system. And that is why if you see the price of tomatoes, if you go on the market today, even though it has inched up, we're looking at about 1.3 to 2.2% increase compared to the 40% year increase that we experienced between the lean season and the bumper harvest.
And is this the tomato with the water or the preferred tomato? Because the other question has been the type of tomato that the tomato factories use.
We have the local tomato and we have what we call the Navrongo tomato. The local tomato is about 15 cedis per kg, and then the Navrongo tomato is about 27 cedis per kg. But the increase in price that we're experiencing, okay, has been from 13 cedis to 15 cedis per kg compared to 13 cedis to 22 cedis per kg on the local tomato. Now it's hovering around 15 cedis, and this is because we were able to produce tomatoes in Via, Tamni, Tono, in the upper regions, and we are now bringing it down.
Of the Navrongo type?
Yes. We are now bringing it down south to stabilize the market. So yes, tomato prices are going up, but it is not where we want.
So currently, as tomato self-sufficiency, is it 50%?
Nowhere near.
We are still about 42%.
We are. If you look at
base self-sufficiency for tomato,
the tomato currently we are about 27%.
So tomato is 27. Sorry, is onion that's 42. Tomato is 27.
27. This year we want to move to 518,000 metric tons,
which will be about 35%.
Yes,
it's not even 40.
But you see, to bring back the tomato farmers in Bono regions, to incentivize them to go back to tomato farming, Begro, Volta region, to incentivize the tomato farmers in Ada to be able to produce with the improved seeds that we have, to utilize all the irrigation schemes up north, to be able to do all year tomato farming. It's something that you cannot achieve those targets overnight. And that is why we have set out 518,000 in 2024, 666 in 2025, 915 in 26, 1.2 million in 27, and then 1.5 million in 28. Don't forget that the base targets are also not static. Okay,
because the consumption will increase.
But Ghanaians consume more tomato per capita than Nigeria.
Yes.
Okay.
Because most of our foods are made of tomato.
Wonderful. And then the population is also increasing. So our base targets are not.
Let me deal with onion before I come to the PFJ 2.0. This is a Citi Breakfast Show. It's 5 minutes to 8. My guest is Minister for Food and Agriculture, Bryan Acheampong, inviting farmers, schools, groups to take part in the PFJ 2.0, which was launched. And he says it's going to help increase food production. He talks about the major issues: production, distribution, pricing, irrigation, import substitution, value addition. Onion is interesting because last 2 months, when the Nigerians did their coup and there was a ECOWAS sanction, our people were struggling because we still depend on Niger for onions. When you were being vetted, you were very passionate and said you don't understand why we should be importing onions from Niger. Now that you've been in office for 10 months, has there been a reduction in import of onions? Because even within the past couple of months, the women were still complaining that their trucks were getting stuck. So we are still importing a lot of onions, aren't we?
Yes, we are importing onions. The plan for onions, tomatoes, and pepper is to get rid of that embarrassing tag that we have on our head within 2 years. There's no way we can get it done within a year, and definitely we can get it done in 10 months. So we have set that target for 3 years. And if you look at the current onion prices, yesterday I was on the market to confirm this myself. We are seeing onion prices for the first time at 17.77 cedis per kg in January. Okay, in January, tomatoes are 17. As and now,
onion.
I'm talking about onion. 17.77 cedis per kg. Today is 16.75 per kg. It's dropped by a cedi per kg. So my point is that the production that we catalyzed last year, that we are bearing the fruits this year, it's not enough to get us where we want to get to. But we have been able to demonstrate in 2023 that the strategy that we have embarked on will work. And we are beginning to see slight drop in the prices of onions. I mean, at this time of the season, you should see quite a bit of onion, because onion is really a dry season crop. So you should see, as tomato prices are going up, onions are coming down. When onions are coming up, tomatoes is going down. That is really the trend. The idea is to stabilize it. So the price of onions are coming down, but the important thing is that it's being stabilized. In 2.5-3 years, Bernard, this country will win itself of the importation of tomatoes, onions, and peppers. That we are sure, because that one is very embarrassing. Everything else we are saying 5 years, 2028, we should be able to get there. But for onion and tomato, I can't deal with it. I can't sleep at night knowing that Republic of Ghana, the proud Ghanaian.
Yeah. Let me. So you've always had a gripe with inflation.
Yeah.
Food inflation has always driven Ghana's inflation. So when Statistical Service separates the two, even though inflation has come down from a year ago till now, about 23%, food inflation is still the driver of inflation. That's number one. Number two, the region that you're from, the Eastern region, always has the highest inflation. In fact, January 2024, Eastern region had a 37.1% inflation driven by food inflation.
Yeah.
Do you understand why food inflation is persistently higher than normal inflation? And number two, why even the region? Because your region has a front plains, it has a lot of the agric producing areas. Inflation in the Eastern region for the past 1 year has been the highest in the whole country. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do. I think the inflation in the Eastern region, it's not because of maize, plantain, or yam. The inflation in the Eastern region is driven by factors such as tea bag, all the other sophisticated food items that are imported to places like, let's say, Afram Plains, okay, Asari Chrome in Sohum, far places. You see, if you go into the Eastern region, you think that Eastern region is closer to Accra, and therefore prices must be the same. But if you are moving the price, if you look at the price of even cement from Accra to Donkokrom, the price of tea bag from Accra to Donkokrom, the prices change because of the places that these markets are that are surveyed. Sending these products to these places causes a huge jump in the price. And Eastern region always amazes me. I see the disaggregated inflation figures, and I see Eastern region, I'm like, this can be happening. But if you delve in, you realize that the things that are causing the inflation in Eastern region, it's not because of
plantain. Right, in the basket of inflation, tea bag and those exotic goods are very lowly weighted. The major weight still goes to the staples.
No.
So if there's inflation high, you cannot say it's just because of the exotic tea bag and things.
Go in. Today we have a meeting with the Minister of Finance, the Statistical Service boss, Prof, and myself, and Trade. We have a meeting to look at what goes into the basket. 12 o'clock, you can join us for that meeting. What goes into the basket and how that is influencing.
So are you saying that people of Eastern region have an exotic taste for things like tea bag, which is what drives the price up?
Actually, it's the reverse, because if you put tea bag on a shelf for a long time, the store owner is likely to increase the price because it's not flying. So we don't have that exotic
to reduce the price. Rather,
there are factors that, but the general inflation, you realize that yes, food is driving down inflation, if not for food. In fact, when food inflation was about 62%, inflation was about 55%. And in the last 10 months, we have been able to bring food inflation down from 61% to 27%. And that is why inflation is at 23% last month. If not for inflation, food inflation would have been much higher than that. And that trajectory is what the Statistical Service and Bank of Ghana is projecting, that with the interventions that they are seeing on the food front, inflation in itself will be in the teens. And we guarantee you that in August, food inflation will also be...
Which takes me back to the imports again, because if local production is going up and food inflation is the main driver of inflation, food inflation has come down to 27%, and therefore normal inflation has come down, imported inflation is also high. So I'm still going back to your colleague Trade Minister and the issues around import substitution and inflation, because the demand, tea bag is not produced in Ghana. A lot of the things that may be driving the inflation may be things that are even imported. So you cannot solve our production and pricing issues if you don't solve our import issues. That's the point I'm making.
I agree with you 100%. But you see, you cannot stop people from having exotic taste. People will eat caviar, people will eat all kinds of things that are cranberry juice is imported. You can't stop people. Apple juice is imported. You can't stop people from really importing that. But for a majority of the foods that we eat, the 10 crops, maize, soy, millet, rice, yam, plantain, pepper, onion, tomatoes, the basics that we are still importing, if we're able to deal with it, okay, it will weigh down the inflation, and the outliers of the thing that we import will not be
How
able
do you
to
deal with
play out
middlemen?
much.
I did an interview with you a few months ago where you were saying that if I went to the farm gate, I would get maize at a certain price. Most of the people who send their invoices to the show said they were getting at a different price, and your point was that Obi Buomo, they should have gone to the original place. There's a complicated relationship between middlemen, market queens, and producers.
That's correct.
Sometimes we are told that they pre-finance the production. So it's not as simple as I'll go to the farm gate. The farmer may not even have the chance to sell it to me. So what is Minister of Agric doing to crack the distribution, which then fits into the price issue?
Presec train you well. You have a sharp mind. You remember what I said during our last interview. I'm happy with that the training worked.
Not that I agree with everything you said. I'm just pointing out that the middlemen are still there.
I'm talking about you remembering what we talked about. Yes, what we're doing under PFJ 2 is quite simple. After we have arranged for the farmer to get the machinery services to do land development, we're giving them the seeds through the private sector, we're giving them the fertilizer through the private sector. We're doing all these things through an aggregator, okay, who will recover the produce at the farm gate and send to our designated warehouse. Now, we will now do what we call redistribution of products to the major markets, and then the market queens will now come and pick the items from the major market. So we do not expect the market queen to now go to the farm gate to buy the produce. And if they do, we have enough stock to pump into the market to drive the prices down. That is how we are dealing with that. We are inserting an aggregator to go to the farm, help the farmer produce, recover the produce to the, we are setting up a 20,000 metric ton silo around in Sawum to feed the southern sector. We are setting up a silo in Koko to feed the eastern region from maize, from Ejura and Afram Plains. We're setting up pack houses across the country. We are putting all these things to help redistribute our produce in Ghana, so that the middlemen and the off-takers will not have to go to the farm gate and then determine whatever margin they put on the produce before it reaches the market. We are bringing it closer to them so that they can pick it up and stabilize prices.
I'll read a few comments for you, then
Please.
we'll talk about the difference in PFJ 1 and 2. Good morning, brother. The minister should not get us angry. Where can we get kenke for 2 cedis? I live in Teshi, where kenke is relatively cheaper when compared to other coastal towns. And I can assure you, there's no way you can get kenke for 2 cedis. Even in slums in Teshi, the lowest price of kenke is 3 cedis. He started the interview on a good note. You should stay in line. Chris from Teshi. This one is from Harry. He says, Bernard, the price of kenke has been on the rise. And while the weight of kenke has decreased, a phenomenon known as shrinkflation, its cost per ball has increased. So by next time you enjoy a ball of kenke, remember the average price of kenke is 4 cedis, up from 3 cedis a year before. This is data that they sent from the kenke index, and there are many people who have done this research. Bernard, food inflation doesn't suggest PFJ has been successful. This is from Echo. He wants your comment on this. Bernard, there's also greedflation, the role of middlemen who are leading to price increases. I think he's just tackled that point as well. Bernard, ask your guest how they got their data for these crops. The truth is that nobody collects the quantity of food produced from farmers. I don't know where the figures are coming from. This is from John Awuni. Wow, John, interesting comment on where he gets his figures from. Bernard, yellow maize is more expensive than white maize, and not the opposite. Farmers prefer yellow maize because it aids.
About poultry farmers.
Yes, poultry farmers prefer yellow maize because it aids in the yellow coloration of the egg yolk. However, I agree that this is the best we've had with maize in the last few years. This is Leslie, a poultry farmer based in Kasua, saying this. A few more comments coming in on this issue. Bernard, on the rice issue, the country can look at the spoke and spike strategy, where smaller rice mills are built in rural communities, with private sector being supported to establish large-scale millers. The smaller scale millers can be built by gratis. This was once piloted by EDF. These rural community farmers improve their earnings by adding value. The spikes will then link into the spokes. Okay, this is from Kofi Eyisi, who obviously understands a thing or two about rice. This one is from a different note, but I'll read it later. Salom, he says, Ben, asking why he used to beat us as dining hall prefect when we took food out of the dining hall. It's funny because when you're dining hall prefect, you used to say no food is leaving the hall, even KK as well. That's an interesting point. Have you wondered why schools are not able to produce enough food to help with the free SHS thing? Because buffer stocks has challenges sometimes. We know the problems of free SHS. And it's true when we're in secondary school, at least the eggs we used to eat, I know the school farm produced it. Mrs. Acheampong, the Agric teacher, was very clear there. I know they used to buy food. Can the Ministry of Agric champion a planting for food within second cycle schools to help the Agric science faculties to make use of excess land, to give them some support before the buffer stock? Can you comment on that?
Yes, I can. First of all, Kinke is not, Ghana is not just Accra, and Ghana is not just Teshi or Bukom, where you probably say that there's a Ghana community, they produce and eat a lot of Kinke. When I'm looking at average price of Kinke, I'm looking at the average price in Ghana. So you have to factor the price of Kinke in Osino. You have to factor the price of Kinke in Tamale and the price of Kinke in Sisala.
But I know Kinke is an Accra staple.
But I'm saying, I'm looking at...
So Accra is the best place to do Kinke.
I am not minister for Accra to only take Accra numbers and strike an average. I'm looking at the price of Kinke in Ghana. Average price of Kinke in Ghana. And I'm telling you that the average price of Kinke is this. Because we have averages are affected by extremes.
What data source are you using? Because the Kinke guy went to over 15 markets and calculated the Accra price.
I am saying that today, average price of Kinke is what I've given you, 3 cedis. But I'm not saying that I'm happy that some areas are high and some areas are low. My plan is to get it stabilized and continue to come down without affecting the farmer and the people that are doing the business. You talked about schools. You see, when we were in school, the eggs that we were eating from the school farm were actually being produced by the students. You know, the students were the ones who were being sent to the school farm to help in collecting the eggs and giving them vaccines and all those kinds of stuff. You know, I think it got to a point where parents wanted their children out of that whole setup of being engaged in hands-on agriculture, even though it was like we were trying to train the students to do agriculture. They thought that they were being used as farm labor. So that whole thing died. We are embarking on institutions, including secondary schools. And yesterday we sent an invitation to all secondary schools. If you have the land, we will give you the inputs, which is the machinery, the seeds, and the fertilizers. All institutions, not just secondary schools.
Agri colleges, universities, polytechnics,
churches, prisons.
If you want to enter farming and you have land,
the time is now.
What will you give them?
We'll help you with the machinery to do your land development. We will give you the seeds, and then we'll give you the fertilizers, and we'll give you agronomic support from our extension
for free.
Absolutely not for free.
Okay, how will we pay you back?
No, when they harvest, when the produce are back, we'll come and take the share of the cost.
You come and take your share.
Yeah, I mean, if you produce, if we give you 1,000 and you produce and you get 5,000, please give us 1,000 back. That is the way we can.
So you are giving us inputs and you are collecting it back in kind.
In produce. Yes, and we are going to now give it to the big, the off-takers to bring it to the market. You can keep the rest for yourself so that we can turn this cycle around. Because if it goes in, it doesn't come back.
Is that the major difference between PFJ 1 and PFJ 2?
Explain. That's it.
So that is it. In the case 1, they just give them as subsidies.
We just give you a percentage subsidy.
Price. So you bought at a cheaper price.
If it's on 1,000 cedis, we give you 15% subsidy. You pay 850.
And then whatever you do with your produce is not our business.
Exactly.
Now you're saying that you will give me, and let's go through the list again. You give me fertilizer.
Yes.
You give me some seed.
Yes.
You give me tractor if I need it.
Yes, to not to own.
To use.
To use.
And what else will you give me?
Well, and then we'll give you the agronomic support, to apply the fertilizer at the right time and right.
So like an extension officer working with me.
Yes, and an aggregator working with you.
And then how you calculate how much of my maize you will take?
Well, we know that from the beginning of the season. We announced the base price. So if it is 1,000 Ghana cedis, we know that.
And so you are valuing what you are giving me in money.
Yes.
And you are taking the value back
in produce. So, but Bernard, if today farm gate price averagely maize is about 190, 200 Ghana cedis. So if I'm giving you 1,000 Ghana cedis in inputs today, at the end of the harvest, I'm taking $5. Meanwhile, you make more than that. It will cost you about 4,000 or 5,000 Ghana cedis to produce maize on an acre of land. When you have produced, you're going to make about 800 cedis, which is about 40 bags.
So we all agree on the value of what you give me, and also on the price per bag of what I will sell or give back to you.
Yes.
So what if I have a bad harvest?
We will know from the beginning, because we are with you day one. Our extension officers and aggregators are with you to help you plant, to help you apply fertilizer, to help you harvest. So in the event, likely or unlikely, that we will know that this harvest will be
so
bad.
Your aggregator is going to work with me, the producer?
Yes, because we've taken people's inputs and given to you. So the aggregator will work with you. And we have also insured the farm. We have farm insurance, just that you come and
Are you going to tell, because some of the problems you have in the sector is the way aggregators work. So are these government approved aggregators? What parameters are you giving them? Because some of the price issues you spoke about, aggregators cause it, right?
No, I mean, we advertise for aggregators. A lot of people applied. We've sieved through. We have appointed aggregators per district. And there are some strict guidelines that all aggregators are going to work within. And if you fall out, I mean, you are taken out. It's as simple as that. We are keeping an eye, a strict eye, on this assignment to make sure that...
Does PFJ 2.0, sorry I'm rushing.
That's okay.
Does PFJ 2.0 include poultry farmers? What will poultry farmers get?
Poultry farmers, I mentioned that we are pumping in 18 million day-old chicks, seeds, feed, and vaccines to poultry farmers. And we are rehabilitating about 300 poultry farms across the country. But we are focusing on broilers. For layers, we are only doing about 1.5 million layers, but 18 million day-old chicks on broilers, because that's what we consume.
Do you have preference products in terms of list? There are different kinds of farmers: coconut farmers, mango farmers, rice farmers. Do you have like a preference list of products that you will prefer for them to come on board for the PFJ 2.0?
We have our 10 crops and poultry, that is broilers. And then in these 10 crops are, we have the maize, we have the legumes, which is
beans and the others.
Maize, cassava, plantain, rice, yam, tomato, onion, pepper, poultry. And
pepper is both normal pepper and green pepper?
Yes.
And poultry. So maize, rice, legumes, which is beans, cassava, plantain, yam, tomato, onion, pepper, and then poultry.
Yes.
Poultry.
Yes.
So things like mangoes and those things are export products. That's different.
That falls in the tree crop development. And you know that we have a tree crop development authority that is focused on those.
And those are mostly large scale farmers.
That's correct.
What scale of farm do I need to have to qualify for this?
I mean, give us a plot of land, because you know most vegetable...
even one plot?
Yes, because most vegetable farmers are quite small. If you go on the Jowlu stretch, you will see them. So you have a plot of land, go to gap.com, GHAAP.com. I know that yesterday when we put the website out on Peace FM, we got to about 300,000 hits in the first...
What's the name of the website?
Gap, GHAAP. GHAAP.com.
And what is happening
so
there?
If you go there, you will see a button, register as a farmer, put your details in. It will be redirected to the districts that you are interested in farming, and then the process starts from there.
So that's how you register for planting for food and jobs. GHAAP.com.
Whether you are an institution, whether you are an individual, you want to do farming, and that's also why I'm here. Go there. We've started farmer registration. You know, the numbers are going up Go there, register as a farmer. Our officers across the country, 261 districts, will contact you. If they don't, go there, get the support. Of course, there's a mad rush in the beginning, so take your time and they'll deal with you. The rains have started. We want all Ghanaians to get involved, all institutions to get involved.
GHAAP.com.
GAP.com. It is a Ghana Agriculture and Agribusiness platform.
That's where the rest of PFJ.
That's where
I'll read 4 comments and then you go.
Please.
Just good morning, Bernard. Salute the minister and applaud him for the school program. But is he aware Blue Skies in partnership with KIC and GES is currently running a school farm program for basic and SHS in almost the entire country? That's question 1. 2, will they partner with these sector players in this endeavor to ensure success? This is Alistair Jimate. He works with Blue Skies. He says Blue Skies and KIC and GES are running a school farm program for basic and SHS. So comment on that, please. As the Agric Minister, what's happening to the 100 greenhouses that were built by the ministry and abandoned for over 2 years at Dawenya? These greenhouses were part of phase 1 of PFJ and was supposed to be given to the youth for vegetable production coming from Accra. Your comment will come on this. As the minister, as a poultry farmer, mostly into egg production and seasonal broilers, which part of the ministry sector should I talk to for any support the government is offering? He mentioned the website. Currently doing 10,000 beds. Please, the yellow maize is more expensive compared to the white maize. It's currently 580 for white. Okay, so 2 in 1 question. You want to know who to contact as a poultry farm with 10,000 beds. Is it a large scale farmer? 10,000 beds or small?
10,000 is a small scale.
It's still small scale?
Yeah.
Okay. So you should go to ghaap.com.
Yes. I mean, for poultry, if you're a poultry farmer, you know the animal production division of the ministry. Definitely all poultry farmers in this country know where they are located. If not, they should just go to gap.com. Register as a poultry farmer, and then we will...
Somebody said 200 greenhouses at Dawenya left to rot. Are you aware of this?
Absolutely, I'm aware. Quite an embarrassing situation, Bernard. We just didn't have the young people show interest in the greenhouses.
Oh.
Yeah, they are there. I mean, look.
So are you going to revamp it? Or they are spoiled?
I mean, I'm here waiting to get young people to hand over those greenhouses to them. But it's clear that, look, government has to... the Directorate of Crops will have to intervene and use the greenhouses to produce the vegetables until such a time that we're able to get young people.
Are you saying that people were not interested?
They are there today. The greenhouses are there. It's not just in Dawenya. Across the country.
Somebody produced greenhouses, but maybe what feasibility was done anyway, whatever. The Blue Skies point, they are partnering with KIC and GS to do basic and secondary school planting. Are you aware?
I'm aware of that. They are doing it in not all schools, in some schools. It's a good initiative. We want other organizations to partner schools to do that. We are just hoping that we can get all schools in Ghana to produce for themselves. You know, the schools, when you remember the school bone shaker truck that we used to have every Thursday, it goes to the Medina market to take up, buy produce and bring to school. It causes a high demand on the produce that are brought to the market. If we can keep that track of that market, we'll have enough food for the population. So we want schools to produce, institutions to produce for themselves. And that is why we are supporting.
Depends on how much land they have. True. Good morning, Bernard and Doc. Coco, I'd like to know what the Agric Minister is doing about state livestock farms. The largest state livestock farm in Pontamale has less than 100 Ghana shorthorn cattle, less than 25 pigs. The farm is sited on a 62 square mile land, but is using less than 20 acres. And he says Dr. Koto as minister never stepped foot on that farm until he left. Is he going to do same? Kojo Jiwanu is Pontamale. He wants you to come there.
Kojo, 62
square miles, only 25 pigs.
Yeah, Kojo, I'll step foot there, I'll break that record. But that's really not the point. The point is that we want the private sector people. If you say state farms and you go and rear pigs, politicians will go and on occasion 6 March, go and take all the pigs and cattle. Leave it in the hands of the private sector. That is the way to go. I mean, look at what happens to state institutions, state hotels, state farms. I mean, once you begin to make it a state affair, then you create an avenue for politicians to dine.
Last question. A lot of people are skeptical when government launches new programs because we later on go and hear that X amount of money was pumped into it and we don't know. The way you are describing this thing, you're saying it's like a batter. You're giving me the input, I increase my production, you collect back in products.
Yeah.
What's the budget for this?
It's not me. I'm only using the power of the state to assure the input suppliers to give the inputs to you, Bernard.
So it's not you who's giving me the thing?
No,
okay.
It's not government. I'm using the power of the state to assure the input dealer, because you, Bernard, I've taken your Ghana card.
Yeah.
I've taken a polygon map of your farm.
Yeah.
Linked it to the Ghana card.
Yeah.
You can't take my inputs and run away.
Good. So it's not you putting money, giving me money.
No.
It's like giving, because in the past subsidy was mismanaged. People were smuggling things.
You will have occasions where government will put in grants for vulnerable people. But there are some people, when you give them fertilizers, you can't even look at their face and go and collect it back because they are too poor, their farms are too small. Those ones governments will continue to do. I don't see that stopping ever.
Okay.
Governments will continue to do. This time round, this year, government put in some small money in the budget to help with grant fertilizers. But the whole thing is private sector, and we're using the weight of government to support that private sector agenda.
Thank you, Bryan Acheampong. He has to go. Lots of interviews today. We appreciate your time. Planting for Food and Jobs 2.0. He says go to gap.com, GHAAP, and you can register as an individual, as an institution, as a church, as a school, or as a company. And he says there was different levels of regional engagement. His MP for Abetifi. You went unopposed.
Yes.
You went unopposed. So you're going to... We'll talk again about that later. That's a different issue. Bryan, thank you.
Thank you to your listeners.